My friend wants me to step aside so he can try to date the girl I've been seeing for 3 years. Love, they say, is a very beautiful thing, but I have been going through different emotions since I met Ashley, my girlfriend. I think I got the shorter stick of what they call love, because if this is what love is, then I want nothing to do with it. I met Ashley in my high school, and my first meeting with her was very beautiful. I saw an aspect I wanted for only myself. Ashley was very warm, kind and hospitable. Let me not even speak of her beauty. It was nothing beyond what words could describe. Her pale skin was very welcoming, and for some reason I always found myself craving to always touch and caress it. In high school I was a very notorious person. I was not serious about anything. It was all play for me. I was not concerned about my future. I was just the typical teenager with no care in the world. Meeting Ashley was purely coincidental. It happened during gym class. We were all in gym class and a staff member came in, interrupting the class, something everyone was grateful for. What caught my attention was not what the teacher was saying, but the person standing next to him. She looked so shy and timid. Her hands were behind her back and she kept looking at the floor. Although this was what she was doing, I was still attracted to her. I don't know what drew me to her, but I was attracted to her. There was just this pull that drew me to her. Just by looking at her, I wanted to do more and be more. Even right there as the teacher was introducing her, I was attempting to look good just to get her attention. When the teacher was done introducing her, I finally got her attention, and she sent a smile my way that made my day. As beautiful as our meeting was, that was the same way our relationship and ending was. After about 2 weeks of her starting at my high school, boys were already swarming her. They all wanted her attention, and even some wanted something more. For some reasons only known to her, she did not give any attention to them. I also wanted her attention. I also wanted to be her friend, and if chance allowed it, I wanted to be something. Like every other person who craved her attention, I strived to meet her and be in her good favor. In the first few weeks that I tried to gain her attention, I was turned down, and not in the nicest way possible. I should have taken that as an answer to stop pursuing her, but I was stubborn. I was fixated on the first impression and appearance I had of her. I did not want to let go of the opportunity of her being mine, and finally my constant push paid off, because at the end of that session we were officially dating. From the start of the relationship, nothing was smooth. We did not align in any way. There was always one issue or the other. We did not agree on anything. The relationship was very toxic and abusive. She used blackmail and gaslighting as a means of communication. She was never wrong in any of her actions. God forbid that she accept her mistake. Yes, you might ask why I did not leave the moment I found out about all this. Till date, I still ask myself these questions, and it wasn't until a while ago that I figured out the answer. I could not leave because she had made me believe that I was the issue, and if our relationship should eventually come to an end, it would all be my fault. I believed this earnestly, and that was why I stayed. I also stayed because I truly loved her and thought that she could change and that our relationship could become something more. I was not ready to give up on her, and that was why I stayed. Sometimes things were good, and that was what gave me more faith and hope to stay. The biggest reason of all was because we were the most popular couple in high school. Many people referred to us as a power couple, and we were the role models for many other couples. I think that was the major reason why I did not walk out, and why I held on, thinking that something positive might come out of the relationship. I did not want to let those people that looked up to us down. Out of my loyalty to our little followers, I decided to stay in. That might sound silly for most, but I was that kind of person. We eventually dated for a couple of years, and by the end of high school we broke up. The breakup was a huge disaster. Till date, we never speak to each other. At the end of high school, I did not see any obligation to continue the relationship, and I did not want to. I was fed up. Ashley, on the other hand, wanted other things. To her, nothing was wrong with our relationship. She was busy imagining her happy ever after while I was considering a breakup. When I eventually broke the news of what I wanted, all hell broke loose. She kept throwing stuff at me. She also did not want me to leave the house. At a point, all she did was beg and repeatedly say that she would change, but I knew that was a lie. The issue with Ashley was that she doesn't even know what she did that was wrong, therefore she could not change. She also never wanted to accept whatever she did wrong. To her, everyone else was the issue. It was never her fault. I did not let her rope me back into the disaster called a relationship. It was a tough night with a lot of shouting, crying, and regret. At the end of the day, I walked out of that room without any regret. I felt so free and happy the moment I left the building. I had never felt so free and happy. Immediately I got out of the building, I started laughing. I do not know for what reason, but I just started laughing. From laughing, I began to cry. I just felt relieved. As relieved as I felt, I also found out that I was damaged. It was something I somewhat knew, but I did not want to accept. How I finally accepted that I was damaged was when I realized that I could no longer be with anybody. When I found that I was becoming interested in someone, I immediately killed feelings because I was scared of going through all the things I went through with my past relationship. I decided not to ever commit so that I would not put myself through such pain again. But that all changed when I met Bailey. She was the exact opposite of Ashley. Even our meeting experience was different. I did not like anything about Bailey when I met her. She even acted and behaved like a tomboy. It was easier to be friends with her than anything else, but somehow I saw myself developing feelings for her. How it happened I can still wrap my head around it. We were all seated at the outer area of the campus. The scenery was amazing, and the calm, cool breeze of the evening flowed through our Garmin and Bailey's hair. The way she struggled to put her hair back in order made me chuckle, and for some reason was tempted to help her pack her hair back into place. Immediately, I got that feeling. I resisted it. It was so weird, but I liked how I felt. I kept on staring at her, watching as she struggled, until a mutual friend of ours decided to help her pack her hair. The pain I felt that day as I watched Josh pack Bailey's hair was unbearable. Far worse than the pain I felt from being in an abusive and toxic relationship. It was as if someone had stolen my spot and taken what belonged to me. Although I watched quietly, I knew I was feeling so much more than I chose to let on. The action of Josh helping her pack her hair that actually lasted a few seconds felt like a long time to me. At one point, I even thought that I was imagining things. It seems to me that Josh let his hand linger on her hair for quite some time. It also looked to me that he was caressing her hair, but I could not be so sure because the action was swift. It was then that I realized that I felt something more deeply for Bailey than just friendship. Josh's action that day enlightened me about how I felt for her. Upon my realization, I still get everything on a low. I still acted the usual way I did with her. I did not let anything change. What changed the dynamics of our relationship was when we attended a house party together. This time Josh was not around, so it was just two of us. If I was not with Bailey, then I would be with Josh, or we would all be together. It was through me that Josh met Bailey, and since then we all became mutual friends. At this particular house party that Josh was not present for because he had to travel back home, something occurred that changed everything between Bailey and I. We were asked to play a game of truth and dare. I was not interested at first, but Bailey convinced me to participate. She had that charm within her. She could always make me do things I did not want to. When the game started, everything was going smoothly and fine. There was beer to drink, snacks to munch on, the music was right, and everyone was basically having a good time. But this changed when someone dared me to take Bailey into a room and stay there for 30 minutes. I knew things would go wrong, so I was not interested in staying in a room with her. Even though the thought was thrilling, I did not want things to change between us. On the other hand, Bailey seemed to have no problem with this. In fact, she called it a simple dare. What she did not know was that I had begun to develop feelings for her, and I knew that staying in a room alone with her was a bad idea. Eventually, we entered the room and did the dare. After all, we had no choice. We were seated in silence for a few minutes, doing nothing, saying nothing, and just staring at each other. I had no idea that looking into Bailey's eyes was this fascinating. I could not get myself to look elsewhere. It was like I was drawn to a force. Immediately, I experienced a feeling of déjà vu. It was as if I was back at the moment when I saw Ashley for the first time. My feelings were just everywhere. I wanted to leave. I wanted to stay. I wanted to know if Bailey felt the same way for me. I also wanted to lean in for a kiss, but I cautioned myself. Deep down, I wanted Bailey to make the first move if anything was indeed going to happen. To my utmost surprise, something did happen and Bailey took the lead. I was so shocked when she leaned in, raising her hand to touch my cheeks. I felt a warm feeling deep in my gut. I took that feeling as an assurance that she too wanted this. It was as if the dynamics of our relationship was changing and I had no control over it. At that moment, I asked myself if this is what I wanted. Within me I knew the answer, and knowing the answer I learned towards Bailey and I kissed her. That kiss deserved the award for the best kiss ever. I had never experienced anything like that. It made me question if what I truly had for Ashley was truly love. I did not want the kiss to end, nor did I want to leave that room, but no matter what I wanted I could not stop the knock that came in a few minutes later. The pain that went through me as I heard that knock, informing us that it was time to come out of that room, was more than anything I had experienced in my lifetime. For some reason, I wished we had a longer time in that room, the room that changed the dynamics of our relationship. The rest of the night was a blur. All I could think of all night was the kiss that I shared with Bailey. It kept on replaying in my head over and over again. I saw myself wanting more, wanting her to caress me like she did in the room. The more I thought of it, the more I wanted more of the kiss, and soon the party became unbearable for me. I wanted to leave. I left the party with more than I came with. The party made me realize that I had feelings, if not deep feelings, for Bailey. I did not know what to do with this realization. I did not know if I wanted to take it further, but one thing I was sure of was that there was no hiding anymore. The next day, Bailey came to my house to ask what had happened between us in that room. I knew we had to talk about this, but I did not think it had to be so soon. There and then, I confessed my feelings for Bailey. For some reason, she was not surprised. Instead, it looked like she was expecting it, making me ask myself if I had not done a good job hiding my feelings so far. She shocked me by telling me that she too had feelings for me. I was in no way expecting to hear that, but I was glad that she too had feelings for me. That was how our relationship began. The tricky part about our relationship was that I was not ready to commit. I was scared of entering into another relationship after what Ashley did to me. In the back of my mind I believed every girl was like Ashley, even though Bailey showed me that it was not true. When you have been damaged, it takes more than words to assure you, and I did not want to test and be hurt again. Bailey knew my past. She knew what I had experienced with my ex, and she was very understanding about this. She did not pressure me for a relationship. She was happy being friends with benefits with me. Yes, we liked each other. We felt the same way for each other, but we were not prepared to take things to the next level. Rather, I was not prepared to commit. We continued whatever we were doing until we finished college. That was roughly 3 years. In those 3 years, like every other couple, or people in a situationship, we had our challenges. There were moments where we would disagree, exchange words, fight, but in the end we always came back to each other. Soon, I started to notice something strange about Josh. He was suddenly everywhere, every time us. This was unlike before you, where we would all be together gisting and having fun. This time it was as if he despised the fact that I and Bailey were in a relationship. Most times, he would call Bailey out just to have personal time with her. He would even touch her in ways she was very uncomfortable with. I know this because she always told me whatever he did, and how uncomfortable she was with his actions. When this got to my attention, I decided to call Josh to order, but he told me that I was not in a relationship with her, therefore I had no right over her. He said that since I was not willing to be in a committed relationship with her, then he had a chance with her. I felt very offended by this statement because Josh knew I really liked her, and he also knew my past with my ex. He knew the reason I was not willing to commit myself or take the relationship to the next stage, yet he still had to throw that at my face. My relationship with Josh went downhill from there. I gave him a piece of my mind, telling him I was not comfortable with him calling Bailey at ungodly hours to meet up. I also told him I did not like the way he flirted with Bailey. What he said next made me realize that he had harbored feelings for Bailey for a long time. He had been crushing on her since our college days, but she didn't give him any time of day, so he couldn't act on his feelings. Even though I cut my relationship with Josh, his words still rang in my head. To me, he made a valid point. I began to feel like I was stringing Bailey along. We had been in a situationship for 3 years and I still had no plans to make her my girlfriend, and she was also not bothered. I felt somehow about the whole situation. I was truly in love with her, but I was still scared of going through what I had experienced with Ashley. Like they say, experience is the best teacher, and in my case that was the truth, and I was an earnest student that listened to every teaching that experience taught. I found myself at a crossroad. It was tough to think about it, but I knew for a fact that I had to make a final decision. Eventually, I decided to ignore the teachings of experience and see where a relationship with Bailey would head to. To date, I do not regret that decision, as I am now married to Bailey, and we have 2 beautiful kids.